It's 7:30, so we'll start. Welcome everybody. Apologies and reasons for absence.
Councillor Leslie Brown is on holiday and Councillor Parkin is unwell.
Just
Accepted.
Okay, are you happy with that?
On his way.
Yeah.
Presumably on his way. Okay.
And PCSOs, Kate Richards and Luke, I think his name, sent their apologies. They're not on duty. And Community Warden Joe Boss isn't on duty either. And Lou Finland sent her apologies.
Right. In the end,
We must have started absolutely spot on.
we did. Okay, are there any declarations by members of an interest pecuniary or other than pecuniary in accordance with the usual?
No.
No.
Any? I don't know. I don't either. So we don't need any applications for dispensations. The reminder that the meeting is being recorded for publication. And I should add that after saying last month that we've got the recordings going smoothly, for some reason last month didn't. So we're hoping that we will be back on the situation of working correctly tonight. It was rather irritating. There was hardly any that could be heard at all. But we don't know yet why.
Me, it was beautiful. Could hear me completely.
With long gaps. Okay, so at this point I'll adjourn for the public session, and we do have a planning application on the agenda, so we'll take that one first, which is Hope Farm Bungalow. Does anyone want to talk about the application for Hope Farm Bungalow? No?
No.
Anyone else want to raise anything? No? Okay, we'll come to that when we get back onto the council agenda then. Does anyone want to raise anything else in the public session? Miriam?
Well, the consultation on the defining the village confines.
Yes.
And we have on the agenda here suggested modifications by the councillors. Well, are we going to see these modifications by the councillors to comment on them before they actually go off to Ashford? Or will that be, you will do that in closed session and then there'll be no further input?
It's certainly not in closed session, Miriam. It'll be an open session. We haven't got any modifications
Well, I mean,
proposed
closed
by
session to
councillors.
the public.
Oh,
I
I see.
don't mean
Okay, all right. It's closed
that's
with a sort of
closed to the
small C.
public. That's your private.
Okay. I think the main point here is that all that councillors will be doing is discussing how, if at all, to put forward any suggestions to Ashford. As I think you probably know from my explanations to people on next door, the village confines map is in the hands of the planners and ultimately Ashford Borough Council to decide what they want on that map. We were told that we could make suggestions for any minor changes, but they would have to be minor, and they reserved the right whether they accepted them to change or not. They will change them if they agree with what we suggest, not that we can change it to what we want. Now, hold on a minute. We've also given the opportunity for people to make suggestions to Yvonne, and you'll report if you have got any. I'm not sure if you have. I haven't had any put to me, for instance. I've had people ask me about them, and I've explained the system, including those long explanations on next door, and people have seemingly gone away and said something along the lines of, okay, I understand, it's not really kind of very important to us or very relevant or whatever. It divides the line, the red line divides HOU3A to HOU5. It's a fairly technical matter, but what councillors are going to suggest that they would like to put forward in anything, I have one or two to put to councillors, but that's all, not very much. So your question, are you going to have the chance to see them? Well, you'll hear us discuss them tonight, and if you want to put in any suggestions, feel free. Now.
Can you tell us what those suggestions are while we're in public session? Do you have a map
of
No.
the modifications?
I mean, I have
that you
a map
propose?
of the sort that came from Ashford,
Yeah.
and I gave myself little thought starters on things that I would float, but I don't mind telling you in public session what I had thought of, and they are only my thoughts. I don't know what councillors will say, and councillors may have their own. In no particular order, as they sometimes say on the television. Okay, these are mine. The first thought I had was that I think it's slightly bizarre, but the planners may have a reason why they will not agree. I think it's slightly bizarre that Island Cottage is included in the confines, and then it goes across the front garden of Island Barn, which is of course a residence, without going round the back of it. Now, they can say, well, we're taking the shortest line between 2 points. They can say we don't want to actually include the whole of the front garden in the confines. I think it's probably just a mistake, but that's up to them to decide. So that is my first example. Would you want to comment on that, either of you?
Well, I mean, I don't own an Island Cottage or Island Barn, but I'd have thought the people that live there might be interested in that change.
In which respect?
Well, in respect of the inclusion of it in the built confines of the village.
Or indeed the non-inclusion, as it
I don't
turns
think
out.
they would have an opinion.
Well, I think at the moment,
But I don't live there,
I think
so
at the moment we can say that neither of them have expressed an opinion or an interest.
on the basis of that,
I think very few people know
look, how many
That
people
this
have
is
seen this?
being-
Be realistic.
discussed.
How much more could we do? Okay,
An
let's go.
awful lot more.
Okay,
Mr.
well, let's
Chair,
not
can I just
have
make a
an
point?
awful
I
lot
just want to make sure. Have you seen the maps on public display?
Yes.
Okay. Miriam?
I've
Yeah,
got a
I've got it
copy.
here.
Oh, okay. No, I just wanted to make sure that because
Yeah.
I got the impression that you might have thought that people hadn't been made aware of it,
Yeah,
and it
but
has been
No,
on.
I'm aware, but
It has been
I come
on-
to the meeting.
Well, it has been. The meetings are open to everybody, so if people don't choose to come to the meetings, that's up to them. We don't have to go around knocking on every single door, advising every single person in person. That's completely nonsensical. They've been displayed on the parish notice boards, and that's there for people to go and see and comment if they want to. No one is forced to do that. And also, this was raised at the last parish council meeting. If people don't come to that, we have very limited resources as volunteers. We can't be expected to go and address this to every single person in the village. So the point is that, and that we've also used social media as well. I don't know if either of you are connected on that, but if you are, you've seen it. So I would suggest that we've actually made significant efforts to give people the opportunity. It's a very, we all in the last meeting reckoned it was quite a confusing and misinformed piece of information that was coming to us from Ashford anyhow. It was quite nonsensical. And the fact that you've got, lines going through the middle of people's gardens and dividing properties, it's a classic Ashford Borough Council planning cock-up in my humble view, if you excuse the phrase. But actually, and it's not the first time, is it? Both of you have made comment in the past about similar situations, and we accept that. But the fact remains that people have had the opportunity to comment, and we
some
are
have.
up against a deadline imposed on us to come back. So we're caught in that respect. And I would put forward the fact that we've done as much as we could possibly do with the resources available.
We've done what we could. We've done what Ashford asked us to. They didn't want it to be a kind of huge palaver. They said that we should consult the public, but that it doesn't have to be made into a massive exercise. We do know that it's got out there because people have come back and asked questions, and that's why I got involved
Exactly.
on Next Door. Now, the other one that I will mention that did
Can
occur
I
to
just
me...
come back?
No, let me just finish.
It's supposed to be a public session.
It's
and
not a
we-
debate, though.
Well, it was supposed to be a public session. We're supposed to be able to
It doesn't
express
mean
our
that it's you
views.
first, Miriam. I'm chairing
not
this.
the public.
I am chairing this public session, as you know. Let me finish what I was going to say, and then you might want to comment. The other point
If
in
you
response,
don't care,
the other
I'll do-
hold on. The other point in response to Mary's earlier question is, and it is closer to Mary and her interests. It's the Apple store, just going back along the cemetery path, and it struck me. Councillors will have their views. It struck me that it is slightly bizarre that has been included because they're normally doing it for residences. They've specifically omitted a lot of other places. I mean, they omitted Wittersham House on the grounds that it's set back too far, for instance. At least I think that's why they omitted it. The Apple store, I think they've done one of two things, would be my speculation, but they'll decide for themselves in Ashford. They've either included it because they thought it was a property, I mean as in residence, or they've included it because it's an agricultural building which of course gets certain permissions to be converted, or certain rights to be converted into a residence. It may have been done for that, but then again, I don't know if that matters whether it's an HOU 3A or 5. So I think it's slightly bizarre they've included that, the same as I thought it was slightly bizarre they didn't include Island Garden. Now Miriam, you wanted to say something else?
Well, I was just going back to the point that Councillor Venn made. I mean, one, I think to describe it as a planning cock-up is ridiculous. I mean, the line is drawn pretty much in line with the policy. Now, you might not agree with the policy, but the policy is adopted and has been adopted in its same form in the new plan, which the inspector has just found to be sound with the modifications suggested, which don't include the change to the definition of it. Now, yes, I think there are a couple of anomalies here, but I don't think it's my place to bring them up if they're actually not my property. It's not my business, to be honest, about the apple straw or island cottage. It's consistency with a policy that you can argue on. Obviously, with any planning, there's a lot of money involved, and if suddenly a large area of land becomes in the confines of the village, that property is going to benefit from having planning consent on that land.
Oh,
So-
hold on, no planning consent.
Well, but
merely in
basically,
the
if it's going to
confines.
say it's in the confines of the village and you can have infill, put it this way, if you're in their red line, the presumption is going to be in favour of development unless there are overriding planning reasons why that shouldn't happen. But putting that red line around somebody's land effectively is pound signs if they wish to develop their gardens, because that land becomes infill. And you yourself have said we're short of infill sites within the village, so if they go into the red line, then
Okay.
the chances
And if
are that they
councillors
put in a
suggest-
planning application, they'll have a much better chance than somebody who's outside
And
the
if
line.
councillors suggest any of them, then that might apply.
So,
Let me just mention one other thing, Miriam. You
well,
did
I
say
just
you
wanted
did.
to
No,
finish.
hold
Can
on.
I finish
Okay.
before you interrupt me, please?
Just a moment. Go on.
Right, okay, and the other point I was making, that if you feel you don't have sufficient time to consult properly with the village, which is the suggestion, then I would think you should be going back to Ashford and say, you are giving us a ridiculous timescale here. We've had Christmas.
Okay,
when
Miriam.
people
Let
have not
me
been
stop you.
available.
Let me stop you there, Miriam. Let's be honest. We are in front of you. It was originally for the 5th of January. We got it back to the 14th of February. I think it is.
Yeah.
This is
Yes.
the only, or whatever day it is. This is the only something in February. This is the only council meeting we have. I'll come to you in just a moment, Alan. You also said one other thing that was wrong, Miriam, in this respect. You said it's in line with the policy. The policy actually states, it's only 3 lines, I will read it. Limits of continuous and contiguous development forming the existing built-up area of the settlement, excluding any curtilage beyond the built footprint of the buildings on the site, e.g. garden areas. I pointed out to Ashford that that is not what this red line is. It never has been. The red line is what they think it means. It is not what the policy says. And the head of planning policy said to me, "You're right."
Well,
That
how
was in a
come the
public
inspector
meeting.
hasn't picked up on that then?
So that's where we are. We all know where we are.
Well, no,
The
you
council-
don't, because
the
if that's what the
council-
policy says,
The
and that's
council,
what they
the
think
council,
it means,
hold on, the
that's what it
council
means.
is going to be asked, I know, to endorse these maps, and they will then use the maps in place of the policy as far as they can, because it actually gives a sensible outcome. That's what they're trying to do at the
Well,
minute.
clearly, they've had difficulties in the past with inspectors because it's been left to the inspector to decide where the confines of the
Maybe.
village are, where now there is actually a map that can
Which
be
will be useful.
presented.
Indeed, which will be useful.
So it gives greater clarity
Okay.
for appeals. I can see that because
All right.
I've been at a
We can
number of
understand
occasions
that,
where
Miriam.
there's
Thank
been
you.
an argument.
Alan,
This is a destructive dialogue, Chairman. Please, can we go to the next business straight away?
okay, does everyone want to
Yeah.
just... Okay, fine, thank you very much on that. Does anyone want to raise anything else in the public session?
That was all the modifications, was it?
No, that was just my suggestions because you asked me for what I would like to
Right,
suggest.
that's all your suggestions.
I don't know about the others, but that was an example of really, I mean, they're mine, they're tiny. they're trivial, and I don't think what Miriam is suggesting would actually apply unless we wanted to include a lot of garden behind houses, let's say, at which point we've been guided by Ashford that they're not going to go for it. So, you know, that's why they've gone across the gardens. So that's it.
Next business.
Indeed, thank you very much, Alan. Let me get back to my agenda, which I've now buried. So, we've closed the public session, thank you very much. And the next business is to confirm the minutes. I'm afraid when I went through them with Yvonne, there were a couple of little things I didn't notice, but not a lot. The first one, other people may have other things. The first one was that there's a stray "the" in 3901 little 2.
Correct.
That the both instead of that both.
Excuse me.
And on the second page near the end, we've got a stray 3812, which should be 3912. I just happened to notice
Yep.
that by
That's
chance. I wouldn't normally have done. And I think that item where it's got proposed by Councillor Venning and seconded by Councillor Mashett wants to be and agreed, of course. The previous one where you put in the proposal and that it did say and agreed. Does anyone else have any other thoughts they would like to add
I've
to
got
that?
No.
No, that's covered all the ones I said.
Okay,
Thanks.
good.
Makes you think, doesn't it? Makes you think. Going through them, what can we find?
I'm sorry I didn't notice them
Take that
before.
as a statement rather than a question.
What, to initial it down here?
Please.
Or do I sign it?
Take that email from me before Christmas.
Yeah, I sent you a reply.
8th, isn't it?
Didn't get it.
Yeah, 1980 was the last time, was it?
Oh, this one too.
Yes.
Right, good. So that's the minutes done. Thank you very much.
Gentleman.
On we go. So matters arising. Change of KCC policy on free school transport update. A couple of bits to update you on. I called Mike Hill this morning and talked it through with him. It hasn't. I've told him that we are going to discuss a draft letter tonight. To Roger Goff, and that if that is agreed, he will get a copy of it, which he thanked me for. I don't think anything he said really changed the approach that I've been trying to take in that letter, but you will tell me what you think about that in a moment. So, I did have a reply from George, who's ill tonight, but he earlier said that he was all right with it, and you have as well.
Very good.
Yes.
And you did as well.
I
Paul did as well.
picked it up today, and I'm quite happy with the content.
Nice little one.
Okay, there's one loose end which you might be able to advise us on, Colin. George said that the county councillors don't usually refer to themselves as councillors, which I have done as a courtesy, and whereas the district councillors do. And I did ask Joe Weatherly, Mike's PA,
Second PA,
he
yeah.
said, well, they are of course councillors,
Yes.
but they don't really sort of rub it in all the time. So
Well, I
you
think
must have a view on that, Colin.
I think personally in this situation that you formalising it by saying councillor is far more appropriate than being informal. I noticed part of your content is informal, but I suggest in this circumstance, and as it could be shared with others, that it should be as formal as possible.
So do you think that where I've dear Roger, for instance, it should be dear councillor?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So we'll change them as well.
But I was happy with the content and the arguments that you put forward on behalf of the residents of Wittersham.
Okay. I'm trying, of course, on one hand to be quite critical, and on another to say, well, we're trying not to be critical.
I think you balanced it reasonably well. I don't think that at this stage the officers may take a different view than the county councillors, but so be it.
Yeah, okay.
Can I make one small suggestion? At the very end, I can't remember, you might have put this in, but it struck me afterwards that who are you copying this to?
Just Mike.
Okay, I would suggest you put CC Wittersham Parish Council at the bottom of it, just so that he knows that it's... if
been circulated.
Yeah, if you're approaching it in a formal way as councillor, if it was Dear Roger...
It'll be on the letterhead,
Yeah.
and I've put in the parish councillors discussed the matter again at its
Yeah.
meeting on 8th of January, and it gave its approval to this letter to follow up with.
Just to go, following on from your
Yeah,
comments
yes.
about
Okay.
it to
So-
councillors, it
So
would be
put at the
appropriate.
bottom, CC.
CC, Parish Council,
Yeah, and whoever else you might send it to.
and anybody else. But I think the content and the way you put it is fine.
Council Mike or Parish Council, okay, fair enough. I mean, all I'm going to be doing is signing it on the letterhead which Yvonne will provide. Okay, and we'll see where we get to with that. I mean, I'm really only making the same points again.
Yeah, I know you.
Going in
I think it's important you reiterate what's gone on previously,
Yeah.
added to which, and look into the future what's going to happen in this coming September and onwards. And I think the resolve needs to be looked at in terms of the global position of KCC vis-à-vis government policy. Okay.
Yeah, okay. I did say to Mike that I was planning on asking for the formal documentation of their policy, and he said, good idea.
I think that's essential.
Right, okay, that's that change of policy then. The next one is Police Parish Forum update. Paul, you've spoken to Kate, and she said, yeah, fine. And that leaves you to try and arrange a date with the police, and then I can write to chairman and that. I just had today a slight niggle, despite what we agreed last time, and that is this. When there used to be a police parish forum, of course you went for the parish council and various other people went to it, and it used to be more around Tenterden when the Tenterden Mick was open, didn't it?
It was effectively, yes, but it sort of embraced the parishes that
Yeah.
the Tenterden
The area.
niche
Yeah.
covered.
Yeah.
And so our thoughts
Yeah.
were that we
Yeah.
would try and reflect that, but probably most effectively is to talk to Kate and say, because I slightly lost count of her expanding empire. I think it was, was it 17 parishes?
17 parishes.
I mean, to me, it
We
would
were
make
talking
sense.
about just her area, because I suddenly realised today that if we weren't careful, it would be nice to have one of the senior officers, but that's where the chief inspector was coming to the CALC meeting, where the chairman of all the parishes for Ashford can go.
Of course, but this was about getting the representatives from each parish council together so they could exchange ideas and thoughts, and if there was a problem in the village. So an example back in the mist of time was when they had joyriders in Bethersden, and because the particular, it was a full-time constable then, and because he also had responsibility for 4 or 5 adjacent parishes, he said, you know, because not everyone lives in the parish where the incident is committed or occurred. So he said, basically, I have a word, I know what's going on and what have you. So it was that almost informal exchange of information that I found was probably the most valuable. So I thought the next step would be to sort of identify what Kate's patch is.
So it will only be her bit.
Well, I think so, depending on
Okay.
whether they might not have been, they might have been constructed in a sensible way. So if it's sort of elongated, or, you know, and it misses out bits that are nearer to us, we might need to take a view on that. But Yvonne and I are going to work on putting, once we got from her what her patch was, then we can make sure we've got, which we have, the contact details for the chairman, because some parishes won't have a rep.
Right, I understand.
Yeah.
No,
And the first one we would host, and we just need to make sure that Kate understands that we're kicking it off, but we want to make sure at the first meeting that we have hands up as who's going to host the one.
No, that's okay. So long as we're
3
not
months
actually
later.
trying to do the calc job.
No,
No,
not at all.
I don't think we felt it was that.
No.
Just our area.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. So we wouldn't be writing the calc chairman, it would be PC chairman
Yeah.
in local area. Okay, that's fair enough. So when that's sort of moving ahead and we presumably need a month's notice or something, then Yvonne can do
Yeah.
letters
I'll
and I
work
can
with
put
Yvonne.
them out, or emails or whatever they are. Okay. Right, now we come to the planning application for Hope Farm Bungalow in Peening Quarter for a replacement dwelling. Everyone's had an opportunity to look at that.
Yes.
No George tonight to start us off. Who would like to talk about that one first?
Can I just ask? I'm sorry, I should have picked this up and I've forgotten. Who's the applicant? Is it?
Anthony Johnson.
He's the man who lives in the house.
Yes.
It's the owners or the occupants or whatever of the house. And just to remind ourselves, and if people in the public haven't picked up on this yet, this is a small old style bungalow that they would like to knock down and replace with a new building on largely the same footprint, not identical, but they're not moving it into the centre of their land space, and they're not making it substantially larger, I think it would be fair to say.
No.
But it will be a modern building rather than a traditional one.
You're gone. This one.
I had a look at plans. I also went and had a look at it as well, not round the back obviously, but just from the front, just to get a sense of the perspective. And actually the first thing I noticed was the massive bit of scaffolding on the house next door, but one, which is huge. And my view is that it's quite modest at the moment, and this is highly subjective, but it's not exactly the most aesthetic looking building. It looks as though it needs a lot of TLC if someone's prepared to do that. It reminded me a little bit in design as the one just before on the other side as you go past Cooper's Corner, which I think was the Bullock old family home, which they redid with the sun. It looked a style. Of course, it does come back to the classic question of what's Wittersham's normal or accepted architectural style, and the answer is there isn't one.
No, we don't.
And I just thought this looked fine, it looked fairly modest, it looked well thought out, and the design and access statements that have been put in it were very comprehensive.
Very comprehensive.
I'd support it.
Sure.
I would support it. When I dropped it off, when I looked at the plans, I dropped it off at Paul's and I went to look at the property and round about. I think I think it will fit in reasonably well within the framework of Wittersham, and it's not going to really take much land other than what's there on the front print at the moment. So I've got no objection at all.
No, it is a much more modern style. It will of course be more energy efficient and all the rest of it.
Everything else. Yeah.
Sue?
Yeah, I did think it was rather modern, but that's not for us here to decide on. It's quite nice to see they're putting in quite a nice driveway because the parking there is appalling.
Right.
But no, I'm quite happy with it.
I'm happy with it.
Yes, and I mean, I agree with you. It is a huge change from 1920s or 30s to something modern looking, but most of the modernness really is on the inside where it's quite open plan. So I think that we can all support that. Thank you. Good. Now we get on to this more controversial point, defining village confines, suggested modification by council as well. I've explained the two that came to mind for me. Do you have
I
some?
don't have any additional ones.
Well, I had Island Barn as well.
Right.
I think that's a mistake because the garage is in the front, and I suspect they probably think that's the building as opposed to.
Oh, of course, they went round the garage, but not around.
Yeah, that's right.
I understand
that's
your
what I
point.
think.
Yeah.
But I did also wonder about Wittersham House.
I think they haven't done that because I think that they are. I've got to pick my words here now. I won't use the crude term, but I think that they are really taken up completely with. They want to include village confines while including as little as possible, and in this respect, I think Miriam put her finger on a point. They don't want to include any land that can be infilled because I think they've got a policy, HOU 3A, that they would really rather not have. Because HOU 3A is a little bit of a green light.
Yes.
So if we make it as small as possible, we haven't given anything away, we can decide whatever we like as planners rather than exactly what Miriam said. Now, I think that is potentially correct.
Okay.
And in that respect, I do agree with Miriam, but I don't think the planners are willing to do it. And I mean, even Island Barn, I think they may very well say, no, we don't really want to because we'd be going back so many feet from the road. But that's up to them. They have got the choice, and it'll be up to Nick and his team of councillors to either agree it ultimately or not. It's not for us. We're just making suggestions. Okay.
Would you like that reference to Wittersham House to be included in any response?
We can put it in really as a question.
That's the question. That's the issue, I think.
I mean, the irony here is that sometimes things work against themselves. Wittersham House, I assume, Mary would be able to nod, although not say. I presume is it grade 1 listed or grade 2 listed? 2-star?
Which is
I can't
Two.
remember if it's grade 1 or grade 2, but there's lots of extra protections for it.
Yeah. It's an
Things like
important
the
building.
Lutyens Trust.
Yeah,
The Lutyens Trust is very hot.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
You'd find if
Yeah.
you tried to build infill there,
Yeah.
And that's why
you
I'm
get
saying.
into all sorts
Yes,
of
after difficulties. Mary.
Okay,
Yeah.
I
that's why.
personally really like it, because
Yeah.
I think it's
That's why I was
opening a can
asking.
of worms.
It is, agree.
Yeah,
I
that's
agree
why,
with you.
That's why I was asking that even if I was thinking of it in the opposite direction, but the same result, even if it was included, the chances of it ever becoming an infill are slim.
Yeah.
Therefore, in a way, while whether it's included or not doesn't make much difference. You know, they're not going to be allowed to throw things in there, whether it's the HOE 3A or not, because it's a listed building, curtilage,
Yeah.
Lutyens, you know.
I keep
Obviously,
quiet
the
about it.
yeah, okay, thanks. Obviously, the architects will go while there's anything happening with the Lutyens building.
Yeah, yeah.
Fine,
So
thank
are
you.
we putting it through as a question?
I think
No.
we're taking the view that
Are we?
we'll leave it as it is, aren't we? Well, then,
I was just
let's-
quoting the question, that's all.
Yeah, okay. Well, I tell you what we could do. I mean, we've still got to frame the words which we can pass around.
just
Is we note that Wittersham House isn't included, and we assume that's because as a listed building and Lutyens and all the rest of it, it would never qualify for infill anyway.
That
That's
would be
a way of doing
clarification.
it. Yes, that is a way of doing it.
In my wanderings around the village, there were quite a number of residents that stopped me. Some had seen the plan, some hadn't, and some asked questions. But I didn't get any negative response from anybody that I met concerning that they were aware of it. They took the trouble to stop me and have a chat.
Yeah.
So I did not know the complaints at all.
I would say that the ones that were concerned, from my point of view, have asked.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think this is the point. I mean, if they weren't sure or where to find the information, then in my wanderings around the village, this is exactly what's happened, and they were satisfied. And quite often I carried a copy of the plan around with me.
Well, I've had it with me, and I had it at the parish desk this morning.
I think the key challenge was having to explain to people how the lines were drawn, the logic behind it, because there
What it
isn't
meant.
really.
And what it meant.
And what it meant.
Or
Yeah,
actually,
it's
what it
virtually
didn't
impossible.
mean.
So whatever you call it, let's call it anomaly rather than what I call it. The fact is that it's with the best will in the world. Ultimately, these things are. It is what it is. It's actually not set in stone forever. We know that because of what's happened in the neighbouring borough in Rother District, where they, to solve their housing problem, redrew 10 parish village confines to accommodate the social housing that they needed. So it is what it is. I see little point in us trying to sort of change anything fundamentally because we've got limited time and we'll have to deal with those issues as they come.
Right,
So
do you have anything to suggest?
No suggestions.
Okay, and I've mentioned mine, so we'll try to put together, Yvonne and I, something that expresses that to Ashford, and then it's up to them. Good. Okay, thank you. So the next one then is the housing needs survey results. Before we go on to the actual result, which you've seen on the email, if you had a chance, but it's very long this afternoon,
I haven't seen it.
I can tell you that I got the
It
hamper.
only came out.
I got the hamper made up as we agreed last
Yes.
time, and I did present it to the winners of the hamper, who I can't remember the exact name of the place. You sort of take 3 or 4 names and shuffle them into the appropriate order. They're down in the sort of Bates Farm area. They were delighted to win. They haven't won things before. They came and collected it from me just before Christmas. So the actual survey results, it is a long report of about 40 pages?
44.
44 pages, including a copy of the form and the letter and what have you. It is convoluted, to be honest. I went through it quickly this afternoon for half an hour. There are quite a number of, there are 150 odd replies, which is not a bad number.
28%, I think.
Yes, but they're setting it against what I think is a rather large number of deliveries. They've got a number of delivered to houses, and we don't have that many houses, so allegedly. So it's quite a reasonable reply. But 91% of them were owner-occupiers. So that's all right. People may want to move down, downsize or that, but a downscale. But that doesn't probably address the whole or a very large part of the sort of target demographic.
Given it's only come out today, Mr Chairman, I propose that we defer it to the next meeting,
That's all right.
so that councillors can take due consideration.
It is a very long report. Like you, I spent half an hour going through it later this afternoon.
What is a point that we can maybe discuss now, although this is obviously without having seen it, it's a report that's made for us, we don't alter it, is whether that report is, what do people think about publishing it, or when?
Well, as I said, I really need to. I've been at work today, so I haven't had a chance to read it.
No, I don't think you would have done. So we'll just
suggest
defer
we
the whole thing
that,
till next time. Okay? All right, we'll do that.
There's unlikely to be other massive agendas next time.
Not that I haven't got anything in the
No.
pipeline.
We don't want to overburden ourselves
No,
next month if we can avoid it. But I also
you're right.
accept it.
You're right. Okay.
It's in the country. In the country.
So we'll do that. In Victor law, we need to agree on our subs. Thank you very much for coming. Nice to see you.
Thank you very
Hi,
much.
Mary.
Good night.
Night, Roger, Valerie. So, in Victor law subs. Are we approved? I mean, we're about to go and see them about doing the
Yes.
land
Yes.
registration.
Yes.
I think yes. The answer is yes.
Thank you.
Can we just say at this point that they do, I have got them out of the bank.
Oh, yes.
Took the fight to get them, but I've got them out of the bank. And I've delivered them to Invicta.
Yeah.
So they now have them, they're going to copy what they need, and we have an appointment on Monday at 2 p.m.
That was
next day to
2012.
discuss it.
Okay,
It's interesting. But you get the
right. Okay, so we've agreed that. Payment authorisation of the clerk's expenses.
You've got a copy.
Yes, we
In
are.
front of us.
Yes.
Yeah.
How's your pet mouse getting on? Do they feed
Last one
down?
died.
I know.
I've never had a mouse die before. It's a bit tragic.
Don't get too close to it.
All good?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I've got a
Very
copy.
much.
I've
All
just
approved.
changed it up. Yeah.
Working party reports, the caretaker.
Right, well, you remember that we have been using landscape services for gang mowing Coronation Field,
Yeah.
and we had and part of the land behind Forge Meads.
Yeah.
They do that bit, not behind Jubilee Field, Alp does that, but that piece. And last year they didn't get down to doing it, couldn't find it, and after a lot of hassle, they did start to cut it, not terribly satisfactory, and then they invoiced me for doing it properly, and I faulted that, so I've just had the bill in, and instead of charging us for 12 cuts, they've only charged us for 6 cuts, so I'm happy with that. So we've got a result on that, but I did wonder, now that Robert Pudan's got bigger machinery, whether it was worth asking him for a quote to do those 2 areas.
Yeah.
And he has come up, I've got landscape services quote. They do look like they've pulled themselves together. They've got it in a bit different. They've got Ian Curtis back.
Oh, he was the one we used to get on well with,
Yes.
who went to Tunbridge.
But we've got a quote of £34.38 for gang mowing Coronation Field. This past year it was £42.21, so it's a bit odd, but Robert's come up with £35 as against £34.38. So pence difference there.
It's very nice to be able to employ somebody local.
Yes.
And Jubilee Field, he's quoted £50. Yes, £50 as opposed to £42.98, so they are slightly cheaper on that. But he has said that he will do it as in a similar way that he does the churchyard, as is necessary. So we will end up probably paying slightly more because he will do it
More frequently.
Yes, but then of course we get a really dry spell. Who knows what the summer will bring. But
That all looks smart.
yes,
Okay.
Well, it does a good job.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, you
It's
do.
worth
All
it.
right with
Yeah.
that?
It's worth it.
and that's what I thought was worth asking you.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. I had a question put to me today about a bit of grass, Jubilee Field, Forge Meads Junction, opposite the village green as it was put. There's a patch there that Alf doesn't do, and I said, I'm sure there's a reason, it's a square. I said, I'm sure there's a reason he doesn't do that, it might belong to somebody, it might not be on the schedule or something, but I don't know what it is. I said I'd mention it to you.
Yes, there is an issue there. A lot of stuff gets dumped.
Oh, is that what it
And
is?
yes,
Yeah.
so Alf has an issue about. But
So we don't know who owns that piece of
Ashford
land.
Borough Council.
ABC do it.
Yes.
So the problem is just that he doesn't want to keep bumping into
To-
bits of crap.
I can
Yes.
understand that.
Okay,
It has
Okay.
been brought up in Ashford.
right, okay.
But it's an ongoing issue there.
Right. Okay, we might just mention that Yvonne and I are going to Carnarvonton Thursday?
Yes.
Yeah, going to Carnarvonton to talk about caretaker scheme and
Yeah.
points that they want to raise with us. Okay. The next working party report is finance. You've got the usual transaction report.
Yeah.
The big one.
Yeah, as you can see there, the going mowing just over half of what we normally pay for the whole year.
Right.
We've had the wayleave in for
Okay.
Mhm.
Networks. I take it this is actually in this £20. It's just that it didn't
Oh,
get the decimal
yes,
points.
sorry, yes, it has
Okay.
moved over. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. And a burial from a different undertakers, I see.
No, it's not an undertaker, it's a memorial, so it's a stonemason.
Ah.
Mm.
Okay. Oh, memorial. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But it's a burial. Right. I
That is
understand.
one we
Yeah,
use.
Okay.
Not terribly often.
Okay. So everyone happy with them?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Now, so I'm going to sign there. While we're talking about this money, let me just float something with you for next time. It's not on the agenda, but it's related. Oh, I better do the caretaker one as well, which of course is included in the first one. Anyone any concerns on that bit?
No.
No. When I went to the chairman's conference the other week, one of the things I heard which made me prick my ear up is that the lawyer who gave us a talk, as each year, said that it's up to us to do it, but we can have a delegation, a statement of delegation, a policy of delegation, whatever it's called, which means that while we're still sort of going on in the Victorian system, that every single item comes to us to approve, and then after it's been done and Yvonne comes back and says, oh, now can I pay the bill? We don't have to do that. We could set a limit on it and say, okay, for a big one we will, but we could actually delegate to Yvonne that she can do that. In other words, if we've approved that she can spend £100 on something and she gets a bill for £100, she can do it. She doesn't have to come and ask us. Maybe, within 5% or something. Now, we'll have to discuss that as a proper resolution. We'll have to do a draft of a document. But if that's the sort of thing that you think, you may say, no, I would rather do everything, dotted and crossed. Or you may say, well, this month isn't a problem, but sometimes our agenda just gets lengthened by all sorts of things that we're just doing needlessly.
Are we talking primarily about clerk's expenses?
No.
No,
But it would include clerk's expenses.
Well, we can exclude that if we want to. We'd have to approve clerk's expenses.
Yeah, no, but the principle of giving someone an
Well, that's
allowance
good.
for another word,
Yeah.
say you get on and do
Yeah.
it, that's
I
absolutely.
mean, we don't have to
Fine.
approve clerks' expenses. It would be, I think, good practice to be honest, because
Mm.
it's
Yeah.
her.
I think it would
But
be.
we don't
But-
even,
but that's
we don't
after the
even,
event.
we don't even have to say that we can't delegate to Yvonne doing certain things without having to come to us all the time. It is apparently up to us to decide what we want to delegate. If you're in Ashford,
Yeah,
the Ashford Borough Council doesn't have to agree every time you do everything.
no, it makes a
It's
lot of
left to
sense.
officers.
It makes a lot of sense.
It does make sense.
It makes every sense.
Mm.
Yeah, okay.
So, but in the immediate term,
Yeah.
I suppose if you're looking at the long term,
Yeah.
if, for instance, God forbid there was ever say a change of clerk or anything, then you
might
and you
do it
reverse the
again.
policy.
You might, yeah, oh, absolutely. I did think of that as well, funnily enough.
And I mean, I'm not, you don't misunderstand me. I'm thinking of 20 years ahead.
Almost certainly. Almost certainly.
Alan's new youth policy.
It would be annual medicals.
It's a sort of thing we can easily reverse. If we,
Okay.
Yes.
No, you're right. I mean, it's just a resolution to do it. So we've got to think in terms of what scheme of delegation we might like to put before councillors, but at least you understand that there is an opportunity there to avoid.
What would be useful would be to get maybe one or two examples of where, if we did delegate that would make the clerk's life a lot easier, would reduce the time we spent and
Yes, that's
and so
right.
on. And a bit of guidance. Be good.
It's sensible.
Yeah.
Indeed, another possibility, I think, is that Yvonne could become a signature on cheques up to
Whatever.
£50 or
Yeah.
up to 100 or something. So we'd still have two councillors for anything big,
Mm.
but she could become a signature on a cheque if it was small
Yeah.
enough.
That's just
We know
sensible.
where she
All
lives.
those things, because
You know,
otherwise
she
she'll
lives.
have to always,
Caretaker ones.
We do
she always has to
it.
chase two
Yeah.
people. Okay.
Can I?
Please do.
Yes, at this point, slightly different. After we agreed the budget and my salary, and I don't know if you remember, but I put on 1% increase because that's what we'd had over
Has it
the
gone
last 2 years.
Mm.
But since then, I've had the new list in, and
Yes.
it's just under 3%. Well, of course, normally it will come before you anyway to approve.
Yes, it would.
So obviously you don't need to approve it, is what I'm trying to say. Well, it's been tradition to approve it. But because we have budgeted and we haven't included, it will be up to you. So this is just, it's
Well,
not
what
going
I
to
would
come on the
suggest-
March one.
What I
because
would
it's
suggest
first of
is that
April.
you put it on the agenda for
Mm.
next month for us to consider whether we approve it and then
Yeah,
we'll be done.
I think that's exactly the right
Yeah.
process.
Okay. But you have to be on the agenda anyway. So
Yes, I was going to do it.
we'll go from that.
With a
Okay.
photograph of the person.
Yes. And the other thing we're looking at is then the statement for the 3 quarters, which Yvonne has also given us.
Yes.
And you can see where we are.
Yes.
We've got all our income in, as we should have done, and other things are just working their way through.
Yeah.
The big number is obviously in line.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're comfortable. I think it is so helpful to us that our budget is not under terrible pressure.
Yeah.
And just to note that the housing needs survey, you'll see it says £530.31, which I put in under contingencies. The bill was actually 1,030, but we had the grant, so I've offset the
Yeah.
grant.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, which we thank you very much for, Mick. Very
Yeah.
helpful. And Ashford does want to see that survey, so it's a quid pro quo, really. Tell them that we paid for half of it and they're the ones who are going to use it. Right, everyone happy with that? Can I sign it?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to sign it?
Yes.
Yes.
Right, thank you. Oh, we're making good progress now. To nominate a councillor to check the bank reconciliation. This has been a bit of an issue. I know Colin has done one.
Yeah.
We do need to have them done every so often.
However,
So,
if you notice, there's no little R's, because on the bank, when I did the monthly transaction statement, I put an R to show it's been reconciled. There aren't any, because I haven't had a bank statement, so I haven't reconciled it. I have gone online and gone through it, so as far as I'm concerned,
It's correct. Yeah.
But
But
there's nothing to tick.
at the moment,
You haven't got any documentation
No.
other than that.
so
Yeah.
we can't
It's-
actually.
Were you expecting a bank statement?
Oh, I get one, but it's only the 8th. It doesn't. It'll be
Yes.
another few days for it.
Oh, I
It's
see.
rather
Sorry, I
early.
misunderstood.
It's too early.
It's Christmas
the earliest
posting.
we can have
Right,
one,
okay.
so
Right.
it just hasn't come in yet.
You don't just download it.
I can't
You-
do that. No, it's
Oh, okay.
not on mine.
So what do you say? Somebody else needs to do a reconciliation
And it shouldn't be Colin because he's done one. It needs to be
and
one of
approve.
you.
I prefer not.
I wouldn't know how. I think that's the sort of thing that Leslie would be really good at. What do you think? Given her experience,
She's made for it.
and she's actually made for it.
Yes.
You know.
But she's got
So
the beats.
I'd like
so
to
she'd
second
all
that
right.
suggestion.
I think an invitation there, Jimmy.
So we'll nominate Leslie
Yes.
for a bit of tuition
I
from the
think so.
clerk. Right,
Yeah.
tick here. Okay.
Trouble being on holiday, isn't it?
Okay, on we go. Anything to talk about on planning other than what we've already done?
There are no decisions in. So.
No. I did raise with Mick today the fact that we haven't heard anything about you and Lamb, the contentious one. Any thoughts since?
No, not unfortunately. I couldn't get hold of her.
No, you couldn't. Okay.
Because they all we are subject.
Cool.
We-
Okay.
No,
Do I presume we've not heard anything about anything happening about Poplar Farm either? About their
Yeah.
application? No.
You all seem to be a bit gummed up, but the you and Lamb, of course, is rather early.
Yes, I'm well aware of that, but I was just.
No, indeed. Okay.
But there has been no conversation with neighbours.
Oh, you mean from the applicants? Because that was a point you made at the time.
Yes.
Okay. They may have been having talks with the planners, who knows?
Yes, that's fine. That's okay.
Yeah, okay. Highways?
Nothing.
obvious?
I mean, I think that compared to
Whole alley?
other parts of the near county, we're in remarkably good nick. I do advise you to be careful if you drive from Tenterden to Cranbrook on the back road there. It's an absolute nightmare. I mean, the roads all fall into bits in parts.
Does it?
Yeah, it's awful. Really, you could definitely get rid of a couple of tyres if you wanted
Which bit
to.
in particular? Which bit in particular?
Just after, you know where Castleton Oak is?
Yeah.
The
Beyond
crossroad, beyond that.
Just beyond the
Yeah.
crossroads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Two Castleton Zones, okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I tend to turn right at crossroads.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wise move.
On my little runabout, which I only really use around here, I've had 3 fractured wheels,
Wow.
and they cost £350
Each.
not cheap, now.
It's an
Need
expensive
to
little
change
runabout.
it rather.
You're not off-road driving again.
Well, he was
Well,
off-road driving, that was the problem.
I think you just get one of those all-terrain vehicles, you know.
I like that for, to make you weep.
That's a lot of money.
Is that round? They
I tend to only use that little runabout for around Tenterden and Wittersham and
okay?
so on.
But is there a specific area where you think that might have happened that we need to report?
I've got a funny feeling Mrs. Lloydsmith never hits a pothole.
We don't want this minuting.
I feel that's the,
Never ever hits a pothole.
I feel that's the title of a popular song.
Right. Okay, let's go on. Right. Public rights of way.
Yes,
Go.
as has been mentioned earlier, the posts, our metal posts seem to be, I should imagine they were all put in at about the same time and they're all disintegrating around the same time. At Christmas I noticed the one up at Rose Hill
No.
was
Yeah.
out into the road, so I got onto Maidstone, I got onto Faye straight away, and I think she probably came out during the week after Christmas when she wasn't working. She came out and she said, I couldn't get it in my car. I didn't think she could, but she laid it flat, so
Yeah.
that will be replaced. I was then told about the one down Back Street where that was resting on the, and that's at 1879, 2 chimneys. I contacted her about that one and said, would you like me to lay that one down to make it safe? So Trevor did that. And while she was out, she went and looked at the one that Andrew Diggs and
Yeah.
George mentioned.
Yeah.
And that's one that I had, probably a couple of years ago, asked for it for resurfacing on that one from a council meeting. And yes, it's put on the list. So she came out and looked at it again and obviously having heard, I would imagine, from Andrew, and she said yes, it really isn't in a good state. So she made sure it's on the list, but she said it's a long way down. However, she said, I do remember your parish council was willing to put money towards surfacing, which, if you remember, we did with the one, the other one from Back Street and the one down at Ferns. So if we were able to put some money in, it would obviously move it further up the list. So it's...
Did she mention any amount?
The cost of resurfacing will be £3,000.
For all three?
Sorry?
For all of them? Or
Just
Just
for
that
that
one.
one.
And we put in about 300 last
Yes.
time, didn't we?
I think it was, we saw what was we got in our donations at the end of the year.
We, the way I read it, we've got the potential funds to do that again at that level,
Yes, we do have funds.
and that would move it up the list.
Which is that one that she wants to move up the list?
It's the one up here.
Yeah.
By Two Chimneys.
No.
Oh,
Roselle.
This is the one
this
that
is
the
the
chap on
that
next
takes you
door
out.
To Roselle?
Yes,
reported.
Andrew Dakes.
Andrew
It's the one that
Dakes,
goes
yeah.
past where Tony Mayor. We walk it
Oh,
sometimes.
Summerhouse.
yeah.
That
Yes,
was it,
Summerhouse.
Okay, I know. Okay.
It's
It's
they've
a
got
long
it-
one, of course, isn't it?
No. Well,
All of it is long.
all
but
of
you're
it's
going to
long,
do a
but
bit of it.
yes, they would do the bit that was really bad. But they've obviously the problem is the gardens one side are higher than the footpath, so in order to just
Yeah,
straight
yeah.
out.
Because somebody was talking about it being underwater as well.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
It's,
That
it's
comes off the
horrible.
garden.
Yes.
doesn't it?
So they want to raise it as well, do
I don't know. I don't know what they intend doing, but it is nasty.
Well, I'm not against it, but we'd have to have it on the agenda.
Yes,
This
we
could
could
be-
just something that we can
So we can put it on the future agenda then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good
just
idea.
to let you
Okay.
be aware.
Right. That's PROW. Open spaces. You've got one to raise there.
Yes, you remember we have agreed to the British Legion putting a tree
Yes.
on the green.
In principle.
We haven't actually agreed what sort of tree or where it's going. They would like a site meeting. We did suggest it went where the one that is leaning over
Yeah.
badly, we wanted to take that out.
Yes,
We thought
right.
that would be a good place. It was near the boulder and the war memorial. However, they don't consider that a good place because it's detracting from the war memorial.
Although there is one nearer to the war memorial than the one that they're saying they wouldn't like.
See, I'm not sure whether
But
they're...
they've still got this idea of the walnut tree, haven't they? I mean, the walnut tree isn't very sensible on grass that you're mowing.
They'd be better with a tulip tree. They always grow rather nicely in the soil, and there's a particularly nice one in the churchyard. That would do well. So you might cast that in their direction.
So they would
That's a
like
good
a site
idea.
meeting with us.
So if you can find a date, if people are happy with that.
At the risk of stating the obvious, are you involving the tree warden in this?
Yes, that
Oh,
has been.
okay.
And Alf as well, because
Yes.
he's got
Yes,
some...
These
Well,
are
to
to
me,
be,
they
yes.
they seem the people that the science meeting should.
Are you happy then that we...
Yes.
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 Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I think there's little
Yeah.
point in us all tripping out there. We just muddied the waters, and I
Yeah.
think a tree warden.
I'd reinforce. Well,
And with you as well.
I'd agree Alan's point about.
With you as well,
Oh,
a
whatever.
site meeting with councillors, but then adding the others, wasn't it?
No.
I'm thinking instead.
No, I
Well,
was thinking. I was
councillors,
thinking that we could
The
Well,
councillors
delegate.
are trying to duck out.
We're
aren't they?
trying to duck out.
No, well, the contribute. I'd agree with Alan's suggestion. The tulip tree in this soil does grow particularly well. We've got an example in the churchyard, and we
Yeah.
should put forward a suggestion. We thought
And they're
about it.
relatively unusual and distinctive, and
Yeah.
which is
And colourful.
so that would be.
Yeah.
It should appeal to them. If it doesn't, I'm disappointed.
The site that was put forward today was the middle of the area in the middle. You know, you've got a path going all the way around. That was their thought. Instead of being around the outside where the other...
Well, that sounds a nice idea. As long as Alf doesn't sort of
Well, he has to mow that.
not get
Mow around.
in circles.
Yeah.
Good.
I've been quite impressed how the memorial has been maintained regarding the poppies and the thing. I think it really has continued to be a very successful sighting, you know. And was it the British Legion who put those frames up to put the...
No, that's
Alf.
Alf.
That's
Alf
yeah.
It's
did
very
them.
good.
Yes.
I wasn't sure who'd done it.
Yes,
because,
Alf
you know,
made it.
but
Well, we agreed that he
Yeah.
would do it. He
Uh,
said that it wasn't totally successful. I mean, it was when his back was really
Yeah.
bad, but he's seen how he can improve it
Yeah.
for next year.
I mean, I've been a couple of occasions, and there was one that came away on the wire, so I just didn't put it back again.
Yes, I did the same.
But you know, it's been kept very tidily that way, and you know, it's a real pleasure to go and look round. It really is.
They are still there, and I did hear it was agreed 31st of December they would
Yes.
come.
They can certainly go now, because we're into the new year.
Mm.
Okay, which is all we actually agreed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there'll be a meeting by certain people to talk to them about the tree on the green, and then you'll come back with a proposal, which we can then think about. And if it isn't a tulip tree, then we'll... no, okay. Right, cemetery and churchyard,
Nothing.
all quiet.
Except that I haven't done anything about the test tubes yet, but it's on my list.
Right.
Can we do something about the wall? I know we will
Yes,
want
that's
some
on
more
my
quotes
list, yes,
because that's
yeah.
going to come back and bite pretty shortly,
Mm.
I
Okay.
think.
Yeah.
Or is this extra,
Noted.
is this extra quote that we've already
Yes.
been trying to find, isn't it?
Mm.
Okay. DFib training on Saturday the 23rd of February is identified in the evening. Doesn't say it here, 7:30 or something, wasn't it?
In the evening.
Morning.
Maybe I'm thinking
I
of
mean, this is
something
one that
else. I
we
saw it
want
7:30 in the evening. I
to...
just
Is it
put it in
who's
my
running
diary
this? Is it
tonight.
John's going
He's
to
not
do
going
it.
to do it on Saturday night, surely.
No, it's Saturday morning.
Saturday
I
morning,
booked the
yes.
here from
But I
10 till
thought it
12.
was...
From 10 to
So
12.
who's-
Yes.
Who's expected to come?
Well,
Anybody.
anybody. I'm going to
Anybody in the
next
village.
door and
Oh, I see what I've
website
done.
and
Yeah.
It's the
Um,
7:30 there.
I've already
I
told
thought it was
WI
here.
because it was WI that actually.
Yes.
So the
Mentioned
councillors
it.
expected to come.
Yes.
Expected to come.
Well, if they would.
I think John will need an assistant, and who better?
I've forgotten everything I ever knew.
This is a great opportunity to refresh.
You mean your insurance is not covered anymore?
No, I think I still am on the register.
I'm sure, you know, the first stage is shaving the victim. I mean, sorry, the patient.
Yes,
Well,
yes.
The victim, basically, yes.
Well, that means you've got insurance cover, all right.
Exactly.
Okay,
So that's 10 o'clock, is it?
Yes.
Good.
Ten.
Because
in
there's
the hall.
a very important matter in the afternoon of that day.
What rugby match?
Yeah, as well as it's England.
We all know the outcome
At
of that.
16:45.
Oh, well, you have plenty of time.
So don't.
Absolutely.
We should better take the fib right home with you.
On the 21st, the Thursday, in the morning, in here, we're having the bike marking that Joe and Lee and Kate are arranging. It's half term, so once again, Lee is going to put something with the school, and the DFib and this will both be in the Outlook as well, and it will be on all the usual.
And is the bike marking just for children, or is it...
Anyone.
Anyone, okay. And there's no charge?
No.
Okay.
okay.
As organised by your parish council?
Well, no,
Yes. Well,
yes.
Yes,
absolutely.
indirectly.
Yes, well,
You're
we're
right.
paying for the farm of the hall.
There you go.
Quite right.
By current permission of.
Oh, okay, on we go.
Well, I've got PCSO's report, which is much the same.
Yeah.
I'd like to wish us all a happy new year. Crime has continued to remain relatively low in Wittersham with few incidents reported. Please can we ask all residents to stay vigilant and report anything suspicious. Does not matter how insignificant you feel it is. If you have concerns, please report it. Otherwise we are unaware. And then it's give them the details for the numbers.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you think there's a very nice white sofa in the field near me? It's been there for about a
Put
year
that there
and a
last
half.
year.
I think you're talking more like 5 years or
No,
something.
it's been there about 18 months.
Yeah.
It was a replacement for the previous
Would
one.
Alf or anybody else have the ability to want to remove it?
Well, I wouldn't but that without this
This
is
is back.
back at the moment.
Of course, it's the trouble is if you report that as fly tipping, you won't qualify.
No, it's private.
We've discussed this before because we did come up with the theory that it was your personal lookout across the marsh. Be comfortable.
I haven't tried it actually. It could. It
Go
looks
on,
from a
yeah.
distance very comfortable.
You can see it from the other side of.
Yes. It's
Well,
been,
the railway.
I've sort of circled it all for a while and wondering when it's going to move, but it's still there.
They don't move by themselves. That only gets
Allegedly.
Basically, is there anything I can do?
a match.
Well, maybe a small table and a lamp.
There are people who advertise to move things like that, but the trouble is it only may only move from one field to another.
Yes, indeed. I'll think about it. Don't worry.
Good.
I might,
It'd be nice to see it done.
I might just have a little bonfire.
But I would think that's the answer.
If you want a hand,
That would
sure
be
I
the
could- I
answer,
could help.
Well, that's kind.
No.
I think the right thing is to have a
Don't breathe
bonfire.
the
Then
fumes.
Whose land is it?
It's tenanted by Clifton and Appledore, and it probably belongs to Miss Thurban, but she's just gone and died, so it isn't there
Okay,
anymore.
right. So difficult
It's
to
the
contact.
nephew.
Right. It might be.
He owns, and the tenant is Clifton and Appledore.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
So
you
we're
might.
asking him if he could have, if any of his vehicles or tractors are passing, they could pick it up.
Well,
Yeah.
every now and again he has a big bonfire there, and I've been waiting for that to happen, but he hasn't done it for a bit.
Right.
So
I'd have a quiet word with him to start with, and then.
He's approachable.
he is. Well, indeed. Yes, he is. Yes, very much.
Okay. Next item then is if you are willing to resolve by the nature of the sensitivity of the next items with an S to exclude the public, there is two things: the Swan Inn, which we talked about last month as well, and nominations for the Celt Community Award. Are people happy with that? Can I have a proposer?
Yeah.
Sue, seconder, Alan. Everyone happy with that?
Mhm.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, thank you for coming, Miriam.